Ready. Welcome to episode 52 of the Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret, and I'm your host, along with my daughter Emma, who will be joining us, most likely, in a few minutes. She had to go out and do something, and I'm short on time, so I'm going to go ahead and start. So I want to talk about beginning foundation agility stuff and kind of go through some of the things that I do when teaching new students and when training my own dog. So I split it out into 7 sections. And so I'm going to go section by section and give a podcast for each section. Hopefully I will do that. So my different sections are, I'll call them section A through G. So section A is recalls to heel. Section B, side changes. Section C, turns. Section D, sends. Section E, equipment. Section F, verbal cues. And section G, putting it all together. So today we're going to talk on section A, recalls to heel. And when I say heel, we're talking at your heel, H-E-E-L. And when I say recalls, that means the dog coming into you. So the dog coming into you and coming into heel position. So there are a couple of different ways that dogs come into heel position, right? Like they don't always come straight towards us. Sometimes they come up from behind us. Sometimes they come from the side. And so I want to practice those with my dog. And I want to talk about the differences for this podcast. One of the things that you need to know is that I follow Linda Mecklenburg's handling system a lot. And I really like how she explains things. I really like how she breaks things down. And so a lot of this is coming through not only my general education over however many years I've been doing agility now, but also seeing the value in all the different recalls to heel. Hi, Emma.
Hi, I'm back. I bought overpriced shampoo and conditioner, so I was putting that upstairs. And then I had to find my own. I went over the toll bill, or the toll bridge, and I have to pay my bills. Don't appreciate it.
Nobody needs to know that.
Okay.
All right, so there are 3 main recalls to heel. And when you're practicing recalls to heel, it's very important that as a handler, you learn how to do the recall to heel from both hands. So the dog coming up to you on both sides. The heel position is either side of your hip. For obedience people only do heeling on their left side. In agility, we have the dog on either side. And this is not walking heeling. This is just a position. This is a position next to you, facing the same direction as you, but staying on your side. So the dog's head and or shoulder area is lined up next to you, to your hip, and you're both facing the same direction. All toes are going in the same direction. So 3 different recalls to heel. The first one is a collection recall to heel. The second one is an extension recall to heel. And the third one is called either back up or backy uppy recall to heel. So I'm going to describe all 3 of those. But when I describe this, I really want you to imagine being able to do this on both hands, both sides of your body, because it's very important, not only from a handling perspective and being comfortable with bringing the dog into you on your right hand, it's very important that you also are able to bring the dog into you on your left hand, vice versa. You'll find, what I find, is that you're more dominant on one hand, just like when you're writing a letter. You're more dominant on a right hand or a left hand, depending on which hand you are. Emma's left-handed, I'm right-handed. So I definitely have a tendency to work one side versus the other. And it's very important that you balance that out for agility.
I agree.
All right, and so not only is it important for you to work both sides, it's also equally important for your dog to work both sides. So your dog will also have a preference of one side versus the other. And their right leg, left I think that I think they have a tendency to be either right-leaded, right-legged versus left-legged.
I have a question. So Dot, when she's curious about something, when she's watching something, she'll lift her left leg. And could that be an indication of which side she prefers? She never lifts her right leg. It's only ever her left.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but if
you watch when she's hungry and she's barking, she'll go like that.
She'll pick up
and when she barks, she stamps her feet, but she always goes left, right, left, right, left, right.
Interesting.
Weird.
Okay, so here are the different recalls to heel. A recall to collection is where your dog comes into, they come in on an L shape. So they come in first to your side, to your knee, kind of straight onto you, and then you turn going in whichever direction. Either on your right hand, the dog will turn right. On your left hand, the dog will turn left. The handler will do the opposite of that, right? Or you'll already be in that position. So when I take the position of recall to heel for collection recalls, I'm in almost a runner stance so I'm going to work my right hand first. So my right knee is facing my dog and my left knee is facing forward. So I'm in a split-legged position. Leaning back, I usually lean back a little bit more on my back leg. Bring the dog onto my right hand to my right knee. And then as they come in straight. So the point of this exercise is to teach our dogs how to collect their body. So collection recall is what this is called, or recall to collection. It's to teach them how to collect their bodies, bringing their hind end underneath them and holding their weight straight, as opposed to the energy taking them right or left with their rear end. So when the dog is coming into you, the dog is coming in to your right knee. The goal is to have them come in as straight as possible, not bypass your knee, and also not shift their weight left or right to come in incorrectly angled on your knee. So they literally do a little box 90-degree turn, but they stop at your knee first. They stop at the corner, and you can reward them at the corner. Then you reload your hand with one more cookie, or you even just withhold one cookie. And as you rotate your hand to stay on their nose, you also step to your left foot. So you bring them around that corner with your hand, with your lure, and with your foot. So the goal is to come in straight and then take a turn with you to stay on your right hand. And where do we do this in agility? We do it coming out of tunnels, potentially. We do it on any sort of where they're converging in on you and then turning. So this is the beginning of your push turn. Coming in and doing a push turn away from you. So convergence on a serpentine, convergence on a 180, convergence on literally anything where they're converging in on you first. So converging means that they're literally running towards you or jumping towards you.
Is this convergence, are you talking about when you're facing each other? It's kind of, so this is different than
facing each other.
Let's say you're going through down a line of jumps that's perfectly straight and your dog is chasing you down and your back is to your dog and you're handling. That is not what we're talking about.
Correct. That would be a recall to extension. Yeah. Right? They're chasing you down and they're going to continue straight. This is you're going to make a turn in front of them, or they're going to turn on the jump into you. So a serpentine jump, 180, anytime that they're converging on you. Yeah. So you want to practice both your right hand and your left hand, which means that the dog is turning right and learning to turn left. And then let me go through all three of them and then we'll talk about where we go with them. So as Emma mentioned, the next one is the recall to extension. And that is where your dog is coming up from behind you. So when you're setting this up, your dog can be in a sit stay and you're going to lead out in the beginning, you don't lead out very far. You can lead out 5 feet. You can lead out 8 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. I think I worked up to 40 feet. So that was the amount of speed. I was trying to generate a lot of speed in. So I added more distance as my dog got better. So starting with your dog in a sit stay, you walk out away from them. And here's a side bonus real quick before I continue on. This really, really, really helps your stay, but you need the stay first in order to train this. So train your stay, then go to recall to heels, and it will help buffer the stay or help build up the stay behavior. All right, so going back to a recall to extension. Dog is in a stay. You lead out, walking away from your dog, but looking back at your dog. Stop 5, 10, 15 feet away from them. Look back over your shoulder with your hand and your shoulder extended backwards towards your dog. Now again, I take a runner's stance. So if my right hand is back towards my dog, then my right leg is also back towards my dog. Most of my weight, again, being on my back foot. And then as the dog is released into my hand, and there's a cookie in my hand. Every single time I do a recall to heel, especially in the beginning, there is a cookie in my hand. So dog comes in, and as the dog comes into my hand, I stop them behind me and then take a step forward into heel position. So I'm literally taking a straight line. My dog is staying on a straight line. The part of stopping behind you and getting a cookie behind you is to teach them how to stay straight on this behavior and teaching them not to fly by you unless you give them permission forward, right? So it's to teach them that, hey, you may be turning really tight on my leg once you get to me. And so it's teaching them that part, even though they're in extension or your body positioning is showing them extension. The beginning stages of this, you actually stop them first, then transition your hand so that your palm always stays with the dog's nose or with the dog's mouth. And so you have to learn how to do that without making it cumbersome for your hand. So I like to do like a pizza pie where my hand is up facing the sky, down low though, at my dog's nose level, bringing them into that pizza pie hand, and then rotating my arm and my shoulder and my wrist to then fingers pointing straight down and dogs come into my heel position. So that is recall to extension. Again, working both sides so that you're comfortable rotating your shoulders back on both sides. And again, this would also be the beginning of bringing them on a long line of jumps to then send them forward, right? Or to turn them tightly on you, or to even just send them forward to a tunnel or another jump. Anything, really. Weave pulls, whatever you're going to send them to. All right, the third one is called a recall to back up. And a recall to back up is more on the dog than it is on the handler. So this one I find is the dog has to really know their skills and learning how to rotate into you so that they're coming into you or away from you.
All right, we're doing part 2 of Recall to Heel. I'm by myself. I lost Emma, but I wanted to get this podcast finished, and so we're on part 2. I'm in my car, so you may hear some road noise. I apologize for that, but really wanting to get this done because I think it's been about 2 weeks since we started part 1. All right, so where I left off was on recall to back up, and with the recall to back up, the way that Linda Mecklenburg works the recall to back up is she does where the dog is going to turn away from you when they get to you. However, I find a lot of benefit in teaching both the dog turning away from you, but also the dog turning into you. So I'll explain the difference for that, but we're going to focus on Linda Mecklenburg's, where we're having the dog turn away from us. And the reason that we're going to focus on that is because I want you to focus mostly on the dog turning away from you in the beginning. Keep your sessions separate on turning away from you or turning into, just so that the dog can learn the pattern, and then you can bring in both of them, and then you can intermix them. For Linda Mecklenburg's recall to back up, we start out with the dog, again, in a sit stay. So really, these exercises alone really help with your sit stay. One of the things that triggers our dogs out of their stay is in this exercise, when we put our hands down to show the dog this is where you're coming to. So my dog is in a sit stay. I step out 5, 8, 10 feet, maybe even 3 feet. It doesn't have to be very far. And before I release my dog, I'm going to put my hand down into the position that I want my dog to be in when they get to me. So for all of the recalls, for my recall to collection, my hand is already down and holding still at their nose level before I ever give them permission to get out of the stay. And so when we put our hands down in preparation for the recall, dogs want to get up. So this really helps them understand that your hand signal only tells them where they're going. It does not tell them to come in. Your verbal release word should be the only thing releasing them out of their sit-stay position. And just a side note to make sure that I cover this further down the podcast here, is that if they're already moving, so let's say that you send them into a tunnel, your hand needs to be down when they're turning around and looking at you. So when they're coming out of the tunnel, your hand needs to be already in position to help bring them in on whichever recall you're working on. So be prepared to have that hand ready with a cookie, ready to receive them in that recall position, whether it be a recall to collection, recall to extension, or recall to backup. All right, so going back to the recall to backup. They're 5 feet away from you in a sit stay. You're facing your dog, so you guys are both literally facing each other. I like in the beginning to have my dog just offset to the side that they're going to recall up to. So if again, working on my right hand only right now in this description, I put my dog in a sit stay. I walk out 5 feet, turn around. My right shoulder, my right side will be lined up with my dog's nose. So I'll be facing my dog with my line up right to my right shoulder. I'll put my hand down with my cookie in my hand, give them their release word, and as their nose makes connection with my hand is extended out away from my body. So my hand is about a foot and a half in front of my body. Maybe a foot and a half away from my body. Hand, palm facing my dog, extended out towards my dog, giving my dog the release word. And as my dog comes into my hand, their nose meets my hand, I hold my hand with their nose. We got to keep their nose attached. So you got to go at your dog's speed that they're willing to follow your lure, pulling my dog to my right side, past my right side. So the dog's going beyond my butt, turning my hand away from me and pulling my dog. So my dog would actually be going left. So they're going to make a U-turn to the left, coming back up into heel position. So it's all one fluid motion. The dog's not stopping on the back up recall. In my recall, just from my what I've done I don't remember stopping Eli on the recall to back up. So my dog's in assist A. I give them their release word. My hand is already extended. As my dog comes into my hand, I'm pulling my hand at my dog's speed, straight beyond my body, curling them away from me and bringing them back into heel position, stopping my hand at my side. My fingers are pointed down. My palm is facing my dog's nose, and both me and my dog are facing the same direction. That is a recall to a backup. Where would we use this on course? This is the beginning of your threadle work for threadling to the backside, threadling for a tunnel threadle. This is pulling your dog into your body and flipping them so that they can go into a tunnel, go over a jump. So this would be a lap turn. It would be the beginnings of a throwback. Well, beginnings of a throwback, but throwback they actually turn into you. Beginning of your threadle work. For the most part, this is going to be your backside threadle, your tunnel threadle, could be like a rear cross, a tight rear cross off your jump. You would use this on course where you're going to flip your dog away. So the elements of a rear cross, but the dog's coming into you first, and then a rear cross on the flat. So I like to work this exercise both having my dog flip away from me in a U-turn, but also flipping into me in a U-turn. Now, the flipping into you is actually, in my opinion, a little bit more difficult for dogs to do. I find that dogs have a tendency to come in sideways. And so when they come in, you may want to draw lines on the ground, right? So put a line on the ground and look at the positioning that your dog comes in on that line. So if you were to stand in the middle of the road and be on the center line of the middle of the road, and your dog is running towards you, can you get your dog to line up on that line? Straight. Not off to the side, not in the other lane, but straight on the center line. So you're on one side of the line, dog ends up either on the line or on the other side of the line, but they are straight. You guys are both parallel to each other. And when I say parallel, I'm talking about both the shoulders and the rear end. So people have a tendency to just straighten up the shoulders or the head, and the dogs will bend their heads into heel position, but the rear end is still out off to the side of the handler, not behind or lined up with the handler's butt. So you should not be able to see your dog's tail when they finish out the recall to back up. All right, so why do I do both directions? I think that the recall to back up, having both directions, is really, really beneficial for setting our dogs up in their start lines. I think it's really good. I think that when we are resetting our dogs, when they make a mistake, or when we make a mistake on course, having the ability to flip them one direction or another changes the angle that the dog is then on approach to the obstacle again. And so what's really critical about this back up is that when you reset them, what is the angle that they're on? What is the angle of their back end on? Because if the angle of their back end is pointed to pole 5 of the weed poles, they're going to head towards pole 5 when you send them again. And so it's very important that you know the direction of their body, not necessarily just their head, but their entire body, because their entire body will help to dictate how they drive out of you again onto the obstacle. And same thing goes for a jump. I've seen so many people try and reset their dogs in an actual course, and they're not paying attention to the direction their dog's butt is going, and they try and push their dog back onto the jump. Well, their butt is facing completely away from the the jump, following the handler's line of motion, and the dog just doesn't even see the jump. So really, really, really common resets in novice and open is that the handlers aren't paying attention to how their dogs are coming out of the reset and what they're looking at upon completion of the reset, or that the reset's not even fully completed and the handler starts to send the dog back onto the obstacle, and they just stall out and miss the obstacle again because the handler failed to see how that lineup happened. So if you have a lot of times where you're resetting, the dog's missing the obstacle, get your stuff on video and go back and look at it. See how your reset is messing up the dog's line back onto the obstacle, because this is recall to back up, is resets, is how are you resetting your dog. So not only is it used for actual jump turns and tunnel turns and threadle turns, it is also how you are resetting your dogs for a mistake that may have happened mid-course. So pay attention to that. And teach them, right? This recall to heel, or the recall to back up is teaching them how to reset properly. And it's teaching you guys how to reset your dogs properly so that you can be more successful on the second try rather than try 3, try 4, try 5. And now you've got 4 refusals for 1 obstacle. All right, so those are your recalls to heel. Recall to collection helps with push turns, front crosses, dogs not blowing past the handler's hand. So one of the main goals of this exercise is not only teaching our dogs how to come in straight and how to come in collected for the recall to collection, but it's also teaching them how to follow the hand that is extended out to them. Don't go up to the left side because that's what you've always done. Don't go to the right side when I'm trying to get you onto the left side. Figure out, puppy dog, figure out, little dog, which hand I've extended out and go to that side. So our main cue that we have for which side to be on is our hand signal. Our eye contact as well. Right, we can do it just with our eye contact, but our hand signal is critical as well, especially if the eye contact has left the dog. So if you've shifted your eye contact forward to find your path or to find the next obstacle, the only way your dog knows which side to stay on or to come up on is that hand signal. Eye contact's critical though, so don't think that eye contact's not critical. It is, but hand signals can be very, very critical as well, especially if dogs start to go into handler focus over obstacle focus. Then the hand signal becomes even more important to help keep them on the side that you actually want them on, and then redirecting them back out to an obstacle. I think that's it. Oh, there's one other thing that I really want to emphasize, because I see this a lot. Man, this really kind of drives me crazy, is that when people do a recall to heel, or they're extending their hand down for the dog to come into recall to heel, there's no reward in that hand, no food in that hand. So they almost do like a nose touch, and then the dog's like, well, wait, was that correct? Make sure that if you're working recalls to heel, where you want the dog to come in collected into that hand, that there is a reward in that hand. Because if they come in and there's no reward, then what happens usually is as the handler is pulling up their hand to get the reward, the dog shifts out of position. They follow the hand around to the bait pouch, or they follow the hand around to the handler reaching for the cookie, and the dog's out of position. All right. And so until you work them just getting into position without a reward throughout these recall to heels, have a cookie in your hand, whether it's for the end of the course or in just pure recall to heal training, that cookie, you have a cookie in your hand ready to receive them. So important that you do that. All right, kids, I've made it to my trial site, so I'm going to hang up here. I'm going to stop this podcast. Appreciate you listening. Happy training. Let me know if you have any questions about Recall to Heal. Woof, woof. Go get them.